Hey everyone, Andrus here with another episode of the Ponytails podcast. Oh man, I'm excited. Today we have another European guest, but this time we are in August. If you guys didn't know, go check out all of our European guests. All the way back in June, we had a series entirely dedicated to only European guests where we got to learn more about their countries and their experiences of coming from Europe all the way to the United States to sell books door to door. If this is your first episode and you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, this is the Ponytails podcast, and we interview people who sold books door to door for a company called Southwestern Advantage, which is one of the oldest companies in the country, and it's for sure the oldest internship in the United States. Basically, they get college kids to go sell books to help families with homework, but these kids are selling these books for 80 hours a week, Monday through Saturday from like 8 a.m. to 9:30 p.m., sometimes even later. And they do that through their summers because they get to pay their school off that way. It pays more than your average summer job, especially if you're doing it right. But it's one of the hardest things you could probably do as a college student, and maybe ever, depending on who you are. But if you guys enjoy some funny stories and some just outrageous things that can happen to someone on the book field, hope you guys enjoy the show. A couple of announcements before we get started. If you guys want, and if this isn't your first time and you guys have been fans of the show for a while, we do have a newsletter that is out. It's called The Cult. So make sure you sign up. Go to theponytailspodcast.com here on your screen and make sure that you guys sign up. All you got to do is do an email with it. So there's on the screen, you guys can see that ponytailspodcast.com. The Cult is going to be a monthly newsletter just telling you about what we're doing, what we're up to, who's coming up next on the show, themes that we're doing, charities that we're raising money for. And of course, for our fans who are liking, sharing, and commenting, you guys are going to be able to track your units, YOUNITS units. And that way we can see who is the better fan. There's going to be a bunch of different things that we're bringing to the show as well. Our beer is still on the way. We're promising that for a while, and we're making leeway. But guys, it's hard to send beer across state lines, but we're figuring it out, and we will find a way. So we are book people after all. So enjoy that. Hope you guys go sign up for that. A couple of shout outs for some of our friends on the show. What we've been doing, instead of just doing like a basic ad from our sponsors, we actually asked them to give us some wisdom for our audience about different topics. And so this month lately, we've been asking our friends about investing. And so if you guys want to hear more about our sponsors and what they're doing, every other Friday, Nick Traverti hosts the Derby meeting, which is where all our sponsors come together. And it's like a roundtable talk about investing, company culture, growing a company, scaling a company, recruiting, and they share some amazing wisdom. We're talking about people like Pat Roach, Quintin Roberts, Will Metscher, Seth Hood, just a bunch of really cool people who are sharing some awesome things. Those are live every other Friday on our just check out our LinkedIn and our Facebook, and you guys can check them out. But sometimes we'll take some of that wisdom and share it to you guys here on the show. So this first one's from Quintin Roberts over at Cardinal Senior Benefits. He started out with Nick Dale and Pedro Vega, but his big thing on investing is tracking. Most people are stuck in a wheel of spending everything they earn. Sometimes that could be me. If you're living a life by default, you might say that you value family, friends, health, etc. But what does your spend history say? Ooh. Yeah, so if you're not keeping track, it's a pretty good idea to start using apps like Truebill, Mint, NerdWallet to track your money, and a well-filled-out calendar to track your time is the first step of aligning how you spend your money, your time, and your energy with values. So some pretty good wisdom right there from Quintin. Thank you so much, sir. Next up, we have Elevate Wellness. Seth Hood and Zane Gallagher, they started automating where Seth talked about how he first started automating where his money goes. So make sure each paycheck has an amount taken out and put into the reserves for retirement, emergency fund, etc. Then after that, the number one best opportunity in business or investing is in building marketing skills. When you focus on shortcutting lessons by learning from others' mistakes, you can accurately and quickly acquire clarity for your own vision and direction that serves as working roadmap. Seth himself is coachable, after all. That makes sense. So give yourself advantages by getting great coaches. So investing in your coaching, that's huge, which is pretty much in theme for our next shout out with Will Metscher and Southwestern Consulting, and actually our guest today. So Will Metscher from Southwestern Consulting says this about investing. He said, think about it. What is your rich life anyway? Like, we all budget and worry about money, but if money wasn't an issue, what would you spend it on? If you can think of a few things and decide that that's the thing that you'll keep for your budget. For some people, that's getting coffee at Starbucks. For Will, the big thing he allows himself to splurge on is whiskey. So he allows a fun thing to actually put into his budget to still have fun with his budget and be able to use his money for something that he enjoys. He's found out that when he keeps a budget but adds a few fun things in there, he's a lot more motivated and feels like life sucks a lot less. So also dig into that Derby meeting I was talking about, Facebook and LinkedIn, guys. That's some wisdom from some of our partners here on the show. We like to call them our jockeys affectionately, and they are awesome. So okay, so now it brings me to our introduction of our guest today. As you guys know, we don't do any pre-approach on the show on our guests. We gather no information prior, which is kind of counterintuitive to an interview style podcast. But honestly, it's great fun because it highlights how cool it is when you meet someone who sold books. And the whole idea we're trying to highlight here is how the connection you can create with someone just by the fact that they did this program, and that's all we have in common. So today with us, we have Andrus Albi, and he is from Estonia, originally from Maria. I hope I said that right. Maria is his hometown, but he currently lives in Tartu, where he is with his wife and kiddos there. Super exciting to hear a little bit about his family life as well. He sold from 2004 to 2015, a total of 12 summers. And he was part of the E1 organization. So in that time, the last time we checked, this could have changed because, people are always selling more and more and more. But last time we checked, he was the number 7 person all time who ever did this program as far as production goes. So to give you guys perspective, there's at least supposedly about 100 to 150,000 living alumni and probably 300,000 people that have done this over 160 years of the history of the internship. And out of all those people who sold books, he is number 7 in all-time production. We've had Amy Brock Devine here, who was number 1, and we've had Yvette Morehouse and a couple of Grant Greeter, Brandon Q, who were all in the top 50. Andrus here is in the top 7. So I'm going to welcome him on the show after intro. We'll see you guys in a second, and then with me will be Andrus. Ponytails Podcast. Here we go. Boom. And we're live, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Maybe I should take my hat off so we can be just 2 Andres or Andrus with the beards and the no hair.
And no hair. Exactly. I didn't know you. Yeah, you can.
I think
we're definitely similar in that sense.
Not just their name.
I like to say that when I started selling books, I had hair. So maybe there's a correlation, but I don't know.
I think you're right. Do Southwestern. You can learn principles of success
and lose your hair. Yeah,
from the stress.
From the stress of selling.
Oh my gosh, man! Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It's so good to meet you. We've been spending some time here. You had a gin and tonic, right? Is that correct?
I have a gin and tonic. It's actually my favorite gin. It's a small. I googled it. It's from a tree called juniper. So it's a weird tree that grows in Ireland here in Estonia. And a gin made out of that one. So,
hell yeah. I have some tequila. It's from Mexico, 100% agave. I'm going to take this shot. You sip on your thing, and we'll get the show on the road. What do you think?
Sounds like a plan.
Cheers to you, my friend. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Ooh. That was more than a shot. Wow, that was aggressive. I got to watch my pour. I didn't. Oh, man. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being on the show. And I wanted to ask you, so you're part of Southwest Consulting. Normally we start right where we're at. Like, tell us a little bit about what you're doing. And so let's just dive into that. So walk me back a little bit. 2015, you're looking at the end of your 12 summers. How did you decide to leave? And then how did you end up here? Let's just dig right into that one.
Yeah. Well, I did 12 summers, right? So I really pushed the limit of that summer job, college kid thing. Andrus, when I finished, I was 32 years old. My first baby girl was born already. She was 2 years old when I finished. So how to say, my last 7 years of selling books, I said I'm a recent graduate. And when the hair declined, at some point you just don't pass as a college kid anymore. It doesn't matter what you say on the door, right? Um, so so I had a short. Then actually, the original plan after finishing selling books, I actually got a long-term work and living permit in States, and we moved with my family to Orlando.
Oh,
Uh,
oh
but
wow.
we didn't, how to say, that business idea didn't work out too well, and we also really started missing home. It's one thing of going to States and living and working really hard there for 3 months in the summer. It's another whole thing to just live there all the way through. So we came back.
Mm, fair
And
enough.
and then I started. Well, I got recruited back to the family of companies. So now I'm doing the same what Will Metscher is doing. I'm a sales coach. We train basically salespeople, sales managers, and CEOs. I'm leading the biggest, or pretty much the only European team of Southwestern Consulting. I'm a partner in that company right now. So basically, what I do is that I most of the days I have these kind of conversations without the gin with CEOs of different corporations and sales managers, and we train their salespeople. We help them build their structure, strategy, everything that is business development, basically.
That is
Uh,
so
so
cool.
so this is really different for me because usually I'm wearing a suit. I have a water or a coffee and heavy business, and now I'm doing the same place. So this is my home office where I'm using it, and then I have a gin and tonic T-shirt and you. So I'm kind of like in a, how to say, this is kind of different than usual.
It's like a
But it's good.
twilight zone. It's a
Yeah, it's a
twilight
twilight
zone. You
zone.
know what?
Uh,
I'm honored though. This is what I do. This is my I just do this and then I drink and then I have some kombucha or some water or some tequila and
yeah,
then we do this. So it's all good. I
it's all
have so
good.
many questions because we had Darta on the
Okay.
show. She's one of your team members and one of the things I asked her is, and I would like your perspective on this is, and for people who don't know, Southwestern Consulting. So basically, the about 20 years ago, Dustin Hillis, Rory Vaden, and Dave Brown had this idea where it's like, dude, we're teaching these kids these amazing principles to help with business and sales and personal development, but we should take this and start a company where we do this with CEOs and owners and other just regular people who maybe
Salespeople.
didn't get to experience the program. And so that's what that is for people who are listening who might not know. But my question for you is: have you noticed, with your training and being a partner in the European side of things, what are some of the biggest differences and similarities between like the CEOs that you train with in Europe that you work with versus the ones here in the United States, or are there any? Have you noticed like cultural differences or anything like that?
Cultural differences, exactly. How to say, it's kind of like, how to say, in big things. I mean, the big things, people are still people, right? We still, like, if you look at our dreams and ambition and things, people are still people. We still are scared for our families. We still want best for our families. There's ambition to grow and so on. Um, but the culture for sure is different in that sense. Europeans, and it's one thing, States compared to Europe, but it's completely different working with, I have clients in Scandinavia, like in Finland and Norway, but I also work with Italians and Spanish and French. They're like, it's as different as Minnesota is for Florida. It's the so a culture is always different. Then you do have to adjust. What's the biggest? I mean, how to say? We are just a bit more. How to say? Bit less emotional, we would like to say, how to say, right? It's the, I don't get, I still remember when I was in a training for Southwestern Consulting, and I listened to this sales meeting with where a manager was sharing about his team and the frustration with the team, and our sales coach there who was doing the interview and like how to say, like an introduction discovery meeting where we discover, can you help with coaching or not? She was really good, but still in the end, she got that manager crying, like literally crying, about the frustrations with the team, and I'm like, I mean, most emotion in 6 years I've sold and I've done this job. The most emotion that I ever get out of a European sales CEO, perhaps, is that I like my favorite question is that, tell me the size of this problem. Like, does it keep you up sometimes at night? And if an Estonian sales manager tells you, if I'm really honest, sometimes it does. Like that's the most emotion you'll
You
probably
broke them.
that you broke that person, right? Uh, so so maybe the difference. And the same thing
Yeah.
with selling. Like I mean, I sell coaching really how to say pretty logically. Like the ROI is there. On average, if you take all of our people, on average, we increase their income about a quarter, like 26.8% right now, which means
That's
some
pretty
people will
crazy.
double and triple. So the ROI is there. So often I sell with an ROI, where if I look at, Dave Brown doing this, then Dave sells on, you need more accountability and you need to achieve your dreams in life. And it's just like a bit more rah in that sense, what I call like motivational soft stuff, basically what I call. So maybe I'm a bit too straightforward. Um, that's probably the chin, but it's so I think so. But in that sense, like I do think there's an interesting dynamic there, because I have clients where they go, Andrus, this is just too American. And I'm like, and people want to, how to say, I see people who want to, like, how to say, they want to see it black and white. They're like, this is too American, this doesn't suit me. And I'm like, yes, it does. We just need to customize it for you in that sense. Like if you're going to put blinders on you and say there's nothing to learn from States because that's the American way and that won't work in Europe, you are kidding yourself in that sense, right? But
Right.
in it, but it's so I don't also think that we can just take whatever we do in States and just transfer it over to Estonia and think it will work, right? So there's definitely customization that is needed. But I like this actually was one of my favorite parts about this job is that because I work with so many different businesses and in so many different parts of the world, you literally see you go like Norwegians do it this way. Why don't the Germans do it this way, right? The Americans do it this way. Why doesn't it work here? And obviously they're different industries, right? I work with lawyers
Right.
and manufacturing and IT
Yeah.
and startups, and then you go like, well, this is the main way how manufacturing does business, but this is not at all done in IT, for example. And then you go like, why? Like what can we transfer from here? And it's interesting in that sense. So
Yeah.
these kind of comparisons are extremely like that's actually one of my favorite parts about my job is to kind of make these connections and ponder why the heck does this not work in that sense.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that. I'm glad you brought this up because that was literally going to be my follow-up question is I know you're talking to Darta and talking to Will quite a bit. Especially Will. Will's one of my good buddies, so we talk probably every couple of weeks or something like that, and
Yeah,
at least once a month. But anyway, one of the things that I realized that he has developed a lot over the years that he's been working at consulting is his knowledge on the different kinds of industries that he works with. And I heard actually I've heard a lot of conversations with like Mark Cuban, for example, in the podcast he's been in, and he talked about like his strength was being able to see a business and understand how it works. He said he would say, hey, oh, you're a shoe store. Okay, I know the schematics. When I'm in Shark Tank, I can see a business and before they're even done talking about their pitch, I already know like the intricacies of that industry. And so I guess for you, question for you is despite having so many different cultures and industries, what are some of the like, no matter what industry, no matter what culture, these are like the 3 or 4 things that you need to have in order to succeed in any
yeah,
business, anywhere, anytime.
for sure. And that's really the concept of why I can help, right? It's so many people are like, well, but Andres, you don't understand my industry. And I'm like, yeah, I know you know about more about your industry than I will ever will, but that doesn't mean that I can't help. So
Right.
three big things. And that's actually, I mean, all three things are really same in selling books as well. We learned it from selling books. I think that, and it doesn't come in an order of importance, but just as I think about them, first, I think it's really their consistency and their schedule, their time management, how much effort they put in, and how consistent they are at this, right? So yeah, I like this might sound ambitious, but I really truly think that for most people, you can double their income by their schedule alone. Like you just look at their time management, you look at what the heck they spend time on, you throw out the stuff that is not needed, you automate a heck of a lot of things, you delegate the heck of a lot of things, and they free up half of their time. And then you put it into building the business, and that's how the business doubles. You don't even need to teach them skill. You don't even need to teach them anything else. You just need to look at their
Wow.
systems, basically. Um, so Because I do think, like, I mean, I know with this gin and tonic, we're not going to make this a business podcast, but I do feel that, it's the, like, just briefly on this, I do feel that there's, how to say, like, misunderstanding in sales is that most people look at sales as, can you sell or not? And the truth is, Andres, if you have half decent product, even if you don't have a good product, if you're going to sell something, right? You can do everything
Yeah.
wrong and somebody will buy something. So the question is not can you sell or not. The question is how much in how short of a time. How quickly can you multiply, right?
Mm.
So, and how quickly you can scale, and that's where the time management, I think, is the most important to perhaps, like, and I don't mean really time management, I don't even mean so much the outlook and things, I more like mean really your schedule, like how do you live your life basically. um, then second is, like, how to say, skill. And my niche, what we are, I do think that what we're really good at is I loved when you started with your intro with the, you did investments and things, and then you said marketing skills. I
Mhm.
always say, like, if you want million people to download your app from App Store or million people to listen to your podcast, I have no idea. But if you need to convince a CEO that your team is better and you're worth more money, that's exactly what I do, right? So basically, our niche is person to person. If you need to be convincing face to face or on the phone or like one person to a one person, or a team to another team, then really there's really few. I don't think there is really competition for us in the world in that sense. Um, and then
Wow.
the third big part is motivation. It's basically just like, and what I mean by motivation is not just willingness to work, but I mean more especially with managers, it's being willingness to try new things constantly, right? One thing is, you can always be sure is only thing you can be always be sure is the same, is that the things are always changing, right? Only constant is
Yeah.
change. So, but I mean, as a manager, especially looking at these last couple of years, I mean, the amount of change that you constantly have to go through, right? Like the old way is not working. I need to figure out the new way. New way. You figure out the new way, especially now. Went from full lockdown COVID to insane manufacturing crap, followed by a freaking war. And now
Right.
we're going into a huge, like, euro just went under a dollar. I don't know if that actually has
Yeah.
happened, right? It's
So
like
it's
we're
it's
going
equaled
into
it. I think it equaled it for the first time in 20 years.
in 20 years, and now it
Like
went under. It keeps
and it
going.
went under. Yeah, it's it's
It
it's
keeps going.
slowly getting weaker. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
who knows what the fall will bring. So in that situation, still and whole having a company where you worked for 10 years, 20 years, you built the company and still finding the strength every single day to fight the elements, basically. That's the so if I have to say three things, those
Wow.
three things: schedule, your skill, and your motivation have going after it, even though the world is fighting back, basically.
Like the
So
persistence. I will persist until I succeed type of
exactly, yeah.
squirrel number 3 right
Scroll
there.
number three, exactly. But I would even change that. Like, you will persist even after you have succeeded, but now you need to persist even more because you built a successful company for 20 years, but suddenly you can't meet face to face anymore, but you have to, right? Or you don't know how to do business on distance. You always met them face to
Right.
face, right? You always have ordered stuff from China, but now the boards are closed and you can't do it anymore. You always had, and so on and so on and so on. And although you have built a successful company, now you still need to persist because everything can go under again, right? So the scroll is half written in that sense because
Right.
there's no ending point. You'll never succeed, or you succeed, but you keep succeeding. Um,
Right.
so
So is that more like would that also come into, I don't know if this is right, but would that also come into like flexibility or is that innovation, like something in the middle of flexibility and innovation? Because if for example, we were talking about you talked about schedule, right? And but then after COVID, a lot of people were working from home. So all of a sudden you have like an extra 2 hours, the hour that you're not driving home and back, the hour you're not taking for lunch and back. You know what I'm saying? So
but you
like
also have a couch and fridge and a TV, right?
yeah. So then
So
it's like so there's like a yeah, that's very interesting. So there's also like this underlying need for there's like a consistency in the work ethic, but also an ability to adapt in the manner at which you work of how you work, right?
Yeah,
That's an interesting paradox where it's like you have to consistently work, but you don't have to be constantly working versus you have to be flexible in how you work, right?
exactly.
Oh, shoot, we got to use Zoom now. Fuck, you better figure out how to use Zoom, you know, and you better get good at it quick because that's going to be the people that win, you know, the people that knew how to use Zoom to share screens for the first 6 months of the pandemic were winning.
They
Then
won.
everybody figured it out. But the first like 6 months, those were the people that are like, oh, we got this.
I know, but let me give you an interesting one that is really like, because some of the presumptions that we had before COVID were completely false. For example, let me bring you an example. There was an assumption that when we get people to work from home, the productivity will fall straight away, right? People will sit on their couches, watch TV, and so on. Now, 3 years later, actually, I had just a really interesting conversation with a senior manager in KPMG. I won't mention the country because then it will narrow down too much. But there's KPMG in most countries, so it doesn't matter. And a senior manager, and he's like, Andrus, if I need this job to be done quickly and properly, it's actually better to allow people to work from home. They will work more, they will work more hours, they will do more detailed work. It's actually good for them to do the thinking work at home. But he's like, but the problem is people get weird out. There's no communication, there's no chit chat, there's no team. There's like they
Yeah.
actually they get depressed, they start drinking. Again, our team doesn't help. Um, and and so he's like, I need to balance. I want them to be in the office because it's more fun to be in the office. There's more people and so on. But that actually hurts productivity. He was like, it's weird. We all thought that productivity will fall through the ground if we send them at home. It's actually vice versa. So I guess where I'm going with this is that we think there's these things that we know for sure are true, but then life proves us wrong in some situations, right? So,
That's
and
really
again, it's a
interesting.
change. So, but that's
That's
only
really
there,
interesting.
obviously, right? I don't know. Obviously, you guys, Elon just said everybody comes to work no matter what, or you fired or something. So I don't know. Obviously, manufacturing plants are a bit different than KPMG guys, right? But
Yeah, but I think that speaks of here's my jab on it is the pandemic. That was a unique situation because people were working from home but also needed to stay home, where if it was something where you could work from home and then go out to meet your friends after work and still have a sense of community, then that could probably balance out that
that could
sense of
balance.
loneliness, because it's all because there is something about like the people that we know this from Southwestern shit. I mean, one of the things that you look forward to were get backs because you would go to a city to see your friends from, Texas that you don't normally see because I'm in Nebraska or whatever. But when you were there, you were so motivated and so
That's great
enriched
to
by
see.
the people. And it was GRS was always amazing because you would see people from Estonia and you'd be like, oh my God, like, and it built you up. So you needed that community, but you could have that through this medium as well. I think it's just
Well,
people were
only
so
if
stuck
the
at home.
people, but only if the people you go and have drinks in the evening are your work buddies, right? Because
Yes.
remember, in selling books, though, they were book kids.
Yeah.
You were that actually that part because you were so well connected with them that actually grounded you into the company. Like in your podcast, how many people stayed for years and years in Southwestern just because the people were cool? They weren't even
Oh,
making that much money, but
almost
all of
all
them,
of them.
almost all of
Almost
them,
all of
exactly,
them. Almost
right?
all of them. Because they go
So
sell something else and they make way more money. They're like, what the hell was I doing?
exactly,
But
but the people were so cool, right? So that's the thing. If I just go out and communicate with my old friends, with my motorcycle buddies, that will not ground me into the company that I'm working for, right? So
yeah.
there's just nuances there, and it's fun. But again, as a manager, right, as a leader of the company, is it big company or small company? You have to deal with all of this. So many variables that you have to think through
Yeah.
and strategize and build. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
by any means that I have all the answers. I'm just there to a second pair of eyes, and we just have a conversation and we think what would be the best one to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
There's probably
so
nothing right or wrong. I will say there was a company, I'm not going to mention the name, but there was a company I used to work for where it was like remote. Everybody was remote. Since the inception before the pandemic, it was actually the pandemic actually helped them because they were like, oh, cool. We've been doing this. But one thing they did was they kept every Friday night, they would have like a hangout on Zoom and they would just like meet up with their work friends and have a drink and just talk about life, and their spouses sometimes would join, and like It was like hanging out at a bar at home with the friends. Now it wasn't the same because it's not the same. It's not like
It's
that.
not the
But
same, but it's close. I know.
but
It's
it
better.
really
It's better
helped.
than
It
nothing.
helped
Yeah, yeah.
build. Yeah,
I
and
mean,
it
I
was
agree.
really interesting. It was
I
interesting.
agree.
I think people need to know, and I think that this is getting really deep, but I think this is why this podcast succeeds is because honestly, work is hard. And even I hate the cliche of like, oh, if you love what you're doing, you're never going to work a day in your life. That's bullshit. No, you still have
I
to
agree.
work. Like you have to work, even if you love what you do at some point, because like your spouse in your marriage or your kids or whatever, if you only do that a lot, you get burnt out, right?
For
And
sure.
so when it comes to work, like even though you love what you do, you might love every day of your life because of your job. It's amazing, but it's still hard. And so
It's still
to
work.
have
Yeah.
other people there to share that quote unquote trauma with, which is kind of why Southwestern alumni really clicked together. Is just, oh man, I did that shit too, and it
Hmm.
was hard, and we got that in common, and we can share this. And to have someone else going through it with you, even though, because it's work and it's hard, that's the connection. And I think that that's what was created during those meetings. And what happens when you go out for drinks with your work friends is you might not agree with like their politics. There's probably work friends that you would never hang out with otherwise, but because you do the same work and you speak the same language, right? They get you, you get
I
them.
get you.
If I say to you, oh, blue light award, or if I say to you GRS, you're gonna be like, I know. Sales school, like other people might know what that means, but like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly.
I know, because you cried in a corner your first summer, on a
Yeah,
Tuesday because some mom
yeah,
was really mean. And so did I, and that's okay. So
yeah.
I think that that's needed, that shared, to be able to recognize in each other, like, hey, we're doing something that's hard. It doesn't have to be selling books, but it could be just a hard work day. And it's like, we're in this
It
together,
is.
and you need
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You
I
need that.
100% agree. And then but also put that in, and that actually explains really well on what I do as well, is because put that if you're CEO, right? And then yes, you have camaraderie with your people, but at the same time, you're also a CEO, right? You have
It's
to,
lonely.
it's lonely. It really is. So I'm I'm neutral. I'm in their team. I don't have an agenda, but I do have, how to say, experience. So
Yeah.
that's where it comes in that sense, right? So
That's deep.
so
And that's the reason for people to come. If people are listening and they want to learn a little bit more about, especially we have a lot of European listeners. If you want to go find Andrus, you can go on his LinkedIn
yeah,
and just look him up,
that
Andrus
should have
Albi.
come in the end, right? Did we just turn too businessy?
Oh no, no, I'm just saying. No, we're gonna
I agree.
probably bring that up multiple times,
We'll
but
bring it up.
but what I'm saying is, like, and look, I have a humble company. I have 7 people on my team, and we're here at the Ponytails Podcast LLC, and it is lonely.
It is.
There's even when I talk to my wife about what I'm doing, it's still not. She gets and she's like, "Wow, that's great that you're doing this." And we have the Colts, which is our newsletter, and our beer, and sponsors, and whatever, and so many good things. But there's a point where you're like, "I'm alone. Like this is nobody understands."
I agree.
Nobody understands
I
what
agree.
this is like. And so to have someone there coaching you, that's huge, 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 huge.
And
So
work is,
cool.
I agree with you. Work by definition has grind in put into it, right? Like it's not joy, it's not fun, it's work.
Yeah.
Now you still should love what you do. There's, you need to have a purpose and you can help and so on. But there's still grind built into it, and
Yeah.
it should be. I mean, there's grind in everything that is worth it, right? Like there's grind in marriage, there's grind in health, there's grind in
Yeah.
financial freedom. Everything that is worth it has grind
Yeah.
built into him. So yeah, so
Yeah. Even fighting for like social justice things, like, Martin Luther King Jr. was marching 40 fucking miles a day, right? Like you still, and it wasn't in Asics or Nikes. This dude was like doing, like church shoes. At the end of those
yeah.
40 miles, he's like, it hurts. There's grind. And he loved what he was doing. We love what we're doing, but it's still hard. And you have to
I'm
bust.
the same.
Wow.
I'm the same.
Yes,
I
sir.
love what
Good.
I do, but sometimes it's work,
It's
and you still
yeah.
grind. So
Which is the definition of professionalism, right? Where it's just like you do it anyway. You do it as best as you can, even if you don't want to. Because there's days like, look, and I'm not gonna say who because it's not the guest specifically. There's days where we'll be recording, and before I get to recording, I'll go, damn it, I have to stand
mm,
for 2 hours, and try to meet a new person and I've had a long day or something personal's going on, you know. But then as I do it, it's fun and I realize, oh yeah, that's right. I love what I'm doing. Yeah.
and I
But there's like
and
that
because
grind.
this and because this is like, we'll get to the book selling part later, but I do feel that's probably maybe one of the main things that you learn from selling books, right? Like you wake up with a knot in your stomach in the morning. You're like, I don't know how this day will go. This mom will be pissed at me. They don't want to buy anything, but you go there anyway and you grind, and then suddenly people start buying and they're nice to you and they're giving you food and they're giving you money, and then at the end of the summer you're actually looking back to it and you go, happy times, right? But actually not during the summer, right? So maybe like that's maybe I do feel this was maybe the main thing that I got from selling. Like this did really help me like in being successful in life. It was selling books. Like I realized that although it's grind, there's a rainbow after the rain, or whatever the saying is, right?
Yeah.
That it's worth going through, because I do 100% agree. Like if you're my fitness, I have a coach who trains me on, holds me accountable that I run, and I love his saying. He's a Finn, and he's Finns are even more straightforward than Estonians, or at least about the same. Um, and he's like, Andrus, if you're going to run only when the sun is shining, you're going to run really little in Estonia and in Finland. We have a shitty weather, right? Like it's not the greatest here by weather-wise. Uh, but I love that saying because I'm like, if you're going to work only when you're motivated, you're not going to work a lot, right? If you're going to be married only when you love your wife and you're excited, you will have one divorce after another,
That's right.
right? So
Ooh,
I do feel selling books really teaches you this, that you can have a miserable day, and then at 5 p.m., 6 p.m., you meet the mom who buys everything, and you meet another one, and you have 150 unit day, and you had zero at 6 p.m., right? Um, and then you realize that okay, it's not over until it's over, and you keep going.
that is. Oh, I love that. By the way, if you guys are wondering what the hell a unit is, there you go.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, 150 unit day would be $1,000 in profit, more than $1,000 of
yeah,
profit, basically.
yeah,
Although
it's
you
not bad
were
at all.
nothing. Yeah, not bad. Not a bad day. 1,000 day.
That's so cool. I love that. Another question about what you do, and just kind of on the same in the same general topic of like motivation, sales, and uh, performance, I guess, is the biggest thing I always wonder about, or that I'm always amazed by, is consistency. And I was curious to see if you had any like notes on like how to maintain consistency. Because it's easy to
Yeah.
talk about, well, you got to do it anyway, even if you're unmotivated. Yeah, but like how? Like, is there like a certain thing, whether it's self-talk or something else, where it's like, if I'm a person here, I'm going, I want to be consistent. How do what's your take on how to achieve consistency?
Ooh, that could be a whole hour or two. I love that topic. Like that's actually like, Andres, that's my topic. Like I don't believe in goals that much. I don't believe in, yeah, I don't even believe in self-talk and motivational self-scrap that much. I do believe in schedule and consistency. Um, and my biggest thing with that one is how to say, build a schedule that is productive but sustainable.
Oh,
Um, so I do this with every single client. I go, map out an ideal week, ideal work week, right? So two rules. One is that on Sunday you look back to it and you go, I'm proud of myself. Like I can look it into the mirror and say this was a good, solid, productive week, right? But the second is that you don't need a vacation from it. If you need to, you could go 52 weeks in a row, and it would be like, and your family would be
oh,
good, your health would be good, right? Um, so that's my thing. Like I like how to say, I like our household rules, for example. My wife and I have known each other since high school. We've dated since high school. This year was 20 years, right? But
congrats.
well, there's been some dark times, right? So it's not
Sure.
like it's been smooth sailing. It's not a fairy tale, and I think rarely in a life there is a fairy tale. But because of that, we have a rule that a date night a week, right? 1 week, 1 weeknight, doesn't matter what's going on, doesn't matter how expensive the babysitter is, doesn't matter what we need to sacrifice, how much business I'm losing because I'm not doing it. We really try to stick to it, right? Second rule that I have, so more bad stories, but again, Jen is in. My dad and my grandma both died of diabetes. So I'm the third generation. Now, my dad got a heart attack at 49 years old and fell to the ground, never got up, never saw grandkids, right? So my family physician looks at me pretty straightforwardly quite often and goes, Andrus, you realize that if you get fat, you will get diabetes, right? Genetically speaking, you'll die. Uh, so that really puts it into perspective. So I guess whatever the heck I need to do, I don't care who I have to say no to. I'll go and run in the mornings, and then my rule is that I need to get I get a one evening when I ride motorcycles. So I do dirt bikes, I do motocross and enduro. I do track riding if I need to. Like so, in the winter, it's mainly indoor. We have a nice. One of the reasons I live in Tartu is because 50 minutes from here, it's the biggest Northern European motocross indoor hall. So I can ride motorcycles in the middle of the dead winter with 6 feet of snow. I can still ride
That's
motorcycles.
crazy.
So like I don't care who I have to say no to. I will ride motorcycles. I'm not doing it because I've deserved like it's that I've deserved riding motorcycles. I'm doing it because I need to stay fit, and they help me do business as well. When I ride motorcycles and I have some time with my wife, my eyes light up. I'm good at what I do. I actually enjoy life. So I don't sacrifice those things. But here's a kicker. Like really truthfully, I need one evening with my wife. I need one evening with motorcycles. If necessary, an ideal world, I also will take one evening, and I have three girls, or with my wife, I have four girls. So I will take one evening, and I'll give the wife a free evening, and I'll take the kids because she will go nuts, literally, not even figuratively.
Right.
And I give her a free evening, but that still leaves me 2 nights where I can work until 6. I can work until 10 p.m. if I have to, and I often do. If I go to Tallinn, I take the late train back, so the train gets home either 8, 9, or 10, depends on how I end my day. So often in the train, there are other things to do anyway besides work. So in most last 6 years I've built this Southwestern Consulting, I probably have averaged still 55, 60 hours a week. Like I still put the hours in. Nobody can say I'm lazy, but I'm not going to sacrifice my health and my family to achieve even a higher goal or work more in that sense.
Right.
So that's
Wow.
perhaps my 2 cents on this. Like it just, now when I was selling books, one of the reasons I was like, if I become a DSM, then I'll ride motorcycles. If I hit that, then I ride motorcycles. And I don't know, I hated life, and I also did, and because I hated life, I wasn't that good of it, that good at the business as well, because
Yeah.
because it was just miserable. I was like, I'll wait until I get there. So now I don't know, I don't care. But I still put, how to say, I still put, if I do 60 hours a week on Sunday, I can be proud. I can't say, like, nobody can say that, hey, Andrus, you were lying on a couch and so on. But I just don't sacrifice the motorcycles and a family. And
That's
I'm also really simple in that sense, Andrus, because I already really have, like, my Tartas friend, another coach in Latvia, Tom's. I was looking for a picture I was sharing a screen, and I was scrolling through my pictures to find one, right? And he was laughing, and he was like, Andrus, you literally don't have anything else in life besides your girls and your motorcycles, do you? Because literally every single picture is either motorcycles or my girls. Uh, and I was like, yeah, pretty much. What else is there in that sense, right? So I simplify quite a bit as well. There's no other hobbies. There's no TV in the house. Like I simplify quite a bit. But those three things, business, like it comes in order of family, business, motorcycles, and those three things stay in.
oh, that was a gold lesson right there, my friend. Gold lesson.
Thank you.
So good. Wow, so cool. Um question, maybe this could be one of the last questions before going to Southwestern, but uh I wanted to pick your brain on this. And first of all, I love what you said about the I'm gonna like this is something I love what I do because I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take notes on this. So a schedule that you're proud of on Sunday and a schedule that you don't need a vacation from. So if you did it for 52 weeks, you'd be okay. And I love that that's something that you said because I feel like that's something when book people leave Southwestern, they don't know how to do that because they've
Yeah.
gone from selling and we've gone over this before, but for people who don't know, you sell like 80 hours a week during the summer. And really, if you're like an OL or even a student manager, it's really more like you sell 80 hours a week, but then you're still like managing the other 20. So there is no room for anything else, which is okay for 3 months. But then if you're a full-timer, maybe you get a month off there between September, October, November is a sizzler. I mean, like Americans, US sizzlers here in November, but you guys did whatever. The point is,
Yeah.
once there's a point where if you're gonna full time, it's actually not. I mean, that's all you do. I mean, Sunday through Sunday, it's just calling, canvassing, following up, and training. Like those are the four things, and that's all you do. And so when people leave that, they feel like I remember I was guilty of this where I left Southwestern and went back to like quote unquote regular job, and I was trying to find my way. And I often felt so lazy because I was only working 40
Off
hours a week,
schedule.
and I felt so
Yeah.
guilty. I felt so guilty in my life because I didn't. Ah, man, like, is there
Exactly.
any, like, well, I guess what you just mentioned is a good way to look at it. It's just like balance and boundaries. Balance and boundaries,
Balance
I
the
think,
boundaries.
is another way to say what you just said, which is like boundaries because you need set up your big rocks. This is my family, and this is the boundary. So work, motorcycles, in your case, that won't interfere with my boundaries, right? If Friday night, or whatever night you're going out with your wife. I don't care if the world's burning down, if Russia's attacking Ukraine, if your clients are falling apart or whatever. This is your time with your wife, and that's so cool that's a huge lesson in it right there. So that's a good thing to learn is just how to like understand that balance, right?
I agree. And then, but also, like, I think one of the things that, like, Southwestern is so good at teaching you the schedule. But one thing that I think so few people understand is that, Southwestern has done it for 160 years, right? And quarter of a million people have sold books. In 160 years and quarter of a million people, you can try out everything, right? And they figured out that this is the best schedule to get the most out of production out of people in 3 months, right? 6 days a week, 80 hours a week plus a Sunday that you pretty much work anyway or you sleep. Um,
Yeah.
so they have tested everything. This is the best way, right? But now you come to normal life, everyday life, and I mean, working 80 hours a week, 6 days a week, that's translate into hard, like misery. Like that is not a
Yeah.
good life, right? That translates into divorces and heart attacks straight
Yeah.
away, right?
Or
Long
mental health
term,
stuff.
no,
Yeah.
or health stuff, everything, right? But how to say, most companies that you go to, they haven't had 160 years, quarter of a million people to figure out what's the best schedule, right? You definitely haven't. It's just you and it's your life. So you have to basically, you start to build your own schedule. You have to learn what works for you, what doesn't, right? Where is the borderline? Where do you get miserable? Where you're not? So that's where I think coaching helps really well because that's what I do. I go like, what you learn from this week. But even if you don't come into coaching, first thing in my planning list. So when I plan my 2 weeks, every Friday I take time and I plan next 2 weeks out. Um, First thing in my list is that look at the week that just passed and what did you fuck up? Like what can you learn from that week? What
Mm.
didn't work
Ooh,
well?
I'm gonna write that down.
So you go into it and you go, well, like what didn't work? And if I go, I was miserable this week, then you ask yourself, why were you miserable, right? And then you go, how can I make it more productive? What do I need to, right? Because like I've had time where between book selling and moving to the States, I had 8 months where I was a stay-at-home dad. My wife is a middle school teacher. She wanted to graduate with our class, so I had a one winter full all the way up to June until my wife graduated with the kids from middle school. um, I had 8 months to be home. Andres, I rode motorcycles every single freaking day. Um, we've invested quite a bit and we live really modestly. Only thing we spend money on pretty much is motorcycles. So my net worth actually didn't go down. We were actually quite stable in our net worth because of investments. So I actually have, I guess I could have retired in that point, right? And I have to say, Andres, this was the most, like, first month I enjoyed, second was okay, third I started to become depressed. By month 7, My confidence was gone. I was miserable. Like how to say? I still one of my good friends is an investment guru in Estonia, and he always says, financial freedom, financial freedom, financial freedom. I'm like, that's a fucking scam. Like you will be miserable, and you will be like, how to say, like the goal is never to retire. The goal is just to maybe work a bit less, choose your projects, do cooler stuff in that sense, right? So I
That's
guess so. Like the goal is never to ride motorcycles every single day. I've done that. That's miserable. The goal is to enjoy motorcycles once or twice a week, right? On Sunday or Saturday, and then once in a thingy. Same thing. I don't want to be a full time. Like if I put all my energy into my wife, right? Like only thing that I have in my life going for is my marriage. That's a disaster
that
waiting
would
to
be
happen,
rough
right?
too.
That
Yeah.
would be rough, right? But same thing with business. If I put all my energy only into business, that doesn't translate into a happy life in that sense, right? But it's boundaries, exactly. It's figuring out what works for you. For me, twice a week on a motorcycle is heaven. Like I enjoy this more. I don't really need that much more. It doesn't bring happiness. Less, I get a bit miserable. Right. So you kind of
Yeah.
figure out what works for you, and look at your business same way as well. Like for example, in your situation, you will probably enjoy, you probably have like a sweet spot of how much recording a week you can do and still have
Yes.
fresh and enjoy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
If you push that, you can do like, let me do 4 months worth of episodes in one week. I mean, you can, but the quality of it probably won't be as good because you just get
Correct.
miserable and you won't be excited. So
Yes.
I also look at like my business hours. It's not just 60 hours of work a week. It's like, how much recruiting do I have to do? How much leadership? How many new dials that I want to do? How much I want to sell? How much I want to coach? Like where's the balance there in that sense? Because most managers that I coach, obviously, and most managers overall, they have more than one thing in their task list, right? Because even in selling books, we had, morning gravy, then building new turf, and then there was
Yep.
evening gravy, right? There was even rhythm there that you were like, no, 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 this works better. We didn't just go and knock on a door and it's like 13 hours or straight. I'll just rock on random doors. And well, if I was a rookie, I did that. I
Yeah.
wasn't good at pre-approach and so on.
Yeah.
Right, but there was even structure there.
Yeah.
So
Brilliant. Brilliant. Oh, that's so good. I appreciate that. And then I guess on that same topic of things that people don't realize when they leave Southwestern, and this is actually probably good to open it up to like general people who want to start a business, is what are besides sales, like everybody knows you need sales, right? And we've actually had this
yeah,
conversation with different people on the show, but I'm curious about your take on this because you have a really good perspective. Is often I talk about like, okay, Southwestern teaches you how to be a really good salesperson and how to grind out the numbers that you need for sales, not to be pushy, but how to make it so that the statistically you can kind of almost predict your production based on, okay, if I do X, then I should get Y, which is great. But and they, we're running a business. But then when you leave and you actually like start a company, there's so much more shit that they don't teach you about, like legal stuff, accounting, taxes, scaling. I mean, you learn recruiting. So if you did full time, okay, you also learn about recruiting, which is also important. But
yeah.
like marketing, right? All that stuff. What would you say besides having really really good work like ethic, work schedule, and sales skills? Of those things that I talked about, what do you think are some of the most important things, or where do you see people fail most often? Where it's like, oh man, you like legally you need to have your stuff together or whatever. Like what are
For
some
sure.
tips on that aspects
Yeah,
of
yeah,
things?
yeah. Like I look at it, I would put like sales skills are just one skills. Like I would put skills overall that you need to be good at, right? Like how to say, knowing your like. I think the main thing that helps a top producer in any business is being what we call a student of the game, right?
Mm,
Whatever you need to learn, like learn it, like be excited about it, or recruit somebody who's better than you, right? That's the second option. Like you don't want, like for example, I don't care about, like I'm not excited about figuring out law details, so I'm okay spending a bit more on a good lawyer,
mm,
because I don't want to, right? I always laugh that if I would research as much on stock market as I do on motorcycles, Financially, we would be in a better place, right? I don't just, but if I'm really honest, I just don't care. Like I'm not going to like I've tried. Honest to heart, I've tried reading financial reports and things, and I just like none of it gets excited. And it's funny because it's just numbers. And motorcycles often are as well, like engine configuration, horsepower, the suspension settings. I mean, it's really numbers, but those numbers speak to my heart, and I love that reading those. And I usually know when I walk to a dealership, I usually know more about the bikes than the salespeople there by far. I know the details, things, which is sad because I'm not going to make money at it. I'm actually going to lose a heck of a lot of money buying these motorcycles. But it's being the student of the game. Like so this is my like first is schedule, and then second is being willing to just like what I chase after in life is skill, not money, not production, not rewards or promotions. Like I don't, when I ride motorcycles, I don't race for the do I win anything or not, but I want to feel in the end of the year that I'm a bit better at it. I've learned a bit how to ride better, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's maybe the second thing is that like I do think one of the things that Southwestern doesn't do is teach you really on how to have a good schedule at home. And second thing, it doesn't really like one thing that we do is that we say that if you can sell books, you can do anything. That is not true.
No, it's not. Yeah,
Right? Like
exactly. Yeah.
it's like
Like,
it's the like yes, if you take the same principles and you learn the new job, whatever the heck you want to do, and you really get good at this, yes, you can do that job really well as well. But that doesn't mean that everything you learn from the book field is everything you need for a business. Of course not.
mhm.
Um, so I think the second big part of a top producer is just like whatever the heck you need to learn. Um, and then but also I do think recruiting is a big chunk as well, because I don't think you can learn everything, right? There's only
True.
like I do believe that doesn't matter what I want to learn. Like if I want to learn how to play a piano right now, I just need time and a good teacher, right? Doesn't matter really what you want to learn, you need time and a good teacher. But so you can learn anything basically, but there's only limited amount of things. You need 10,000 hours to really get good at something. So you just don't have that many 10,000 hours. So choose wisely. Choose what you really want to learn well. Um,
Yeah.
so um, so the uh, so I think that's the second thing. So recruiting really helps there because you can you can recruit somebody whose passion is figuring out law, whose passion is figuring out
Yes.
marketing, right?
Yes.
Who's excited about these kind of things. So um, and recruit. So and I do want to say I like these things, but I do really think that if you haven't learned how to recruit well and keep people and build people, then you never build a business. You always just created yourself a job. But you pay taxes differently. But it's still a job. It's not a business. It's only
Yeah.
business when there's other people who you have trained and expand and helped and built so much that they do this job better than you do, basically. That's the end goal in that sense. So
Yes.
so that's my difference.
Yes. 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 I love what you said that. Barry Hart said the exact same thing, same idea. Love what you just said. Basically, his take on it is like, dude, there's gonna be things you're gonna hate to do, like, or you just don't have the interest to do. But there's people out there who love what you're doing and believe in your mission, who would do it almost for free, and they're good at it because that's what they do. Case in point, so we just hired one of my friends, Amy, on the show, and so she look. Uh, Nick Taverdi, amazing. He's great to talk to, fun dude, and he's really smart on like how to expand things. Naomi is really smart on how to like market things from a standpoint of like this is what people would respond to, right? Heather's doing our beer. We have another person, Julian. He does our video editing, but we didn't have a person who was like really excited about organizing things. This is like Amy is like super into like organizing things, and she just love. I mean, it's like in her brain, she's like a very type. I don't remember what an Enneagram 1. It's like not a perfectionist, but organization is it makes her feel good. It just like for me talking to people, this makes me feel good, right?
Mhm.
Not that.
Yeah.
And so literally she's coming to the show and we hired her and she's organized all our things, our emails, put things in, and she loves doing it. It's easy to pay her to do it. You don't have to motivate that person to do it because it's just what they love to do, right? My Nick is really good and likes talking to all our jockeys, and he likes expanding ideas on how to make them more marketable and branding them better. He loves doing that. So it's like, dude, go do that. Do it all. And here on the show, we've given each of those people autonomy where it's like, don't ask me for permission. Just do it because you're probably better at it and you know more about
Anyway,
it than me. And
yeah,
so if we mess up, fuck it. Fail forward, right? Like mess it up, learn
learning
why you messed
opportunity.
up, and then move forward. But I don't want to have to deal with it. Like this is what I do. This is my best. This is what I'm best at, and it's okay. I will mess up and I will learn from it. But from a standpoint of like doing that thing, fucking just do it. Do it and do it well. Do it
I
poorly.
agree, but to counter that a bit, like there is a, how to say, you do need to, how to say, you don't need to be an expert, and you can be expert at only really few things. But at the same time, you should at least understand on the basic level,
Yeah.
that
Yes.
if the
That's fair.
person who you are hiring starts telling you complete bullshit, you at least have
Yeah.
some alarm bells
Yes.
in your head going, I don't think that actually is how it works, right? So you have to be the, I love the saying that, the what is the it's better, master of none, but jack of all trades, but master of none. But it's still better than the one specialist. Whatever the saying is. Basically,
Yeah.
my English is, yeah. Let's blame it on Jin, not my
It's
English
the gin. It's
verbiage.
the gin, man. Yeah. No, but you're right. You're right. That you got to have that to know, and I think that is true. I should have. You're right. Absolutely correct. Whereas, like, also just so you know the direction, because here here on the show, like, even though they have autonomy, I still need to know kind of what they're up to,
You need to
so
know the
that
direction.
like. So that way it's like, hey, is this really heading in, even though you're doing a great job going in that direction, is this overall pulling the entire train in the right direction?
Exactly.
And that's also part of knowing. So case in
And
point
you're
for
in
our
charge
viewers.
of the vision. You are in charge of where the
Yes.
heck we're actually taking it. But I feel so many managers struggle with this is because we want to be in extremes almost. Like I feel people's mind, like human mind wants to simplify. We want to see black and white, right? It's so much easier. Like you guys see it in your society really well. You guys want to go in extremes in every way, right? There is no middle ground. There's only like, let's
Jesus.
give guns to everybody, or let's take all rid of
Nobody
all
gives
the
a gun.
guns. And
Yeah.
there's no middle ground whatsoever, right?
That's so true. That's the
Um,
biggest problem.
but our human mind wants to do it in this way, and I think managers, in that sense, want to do it this way as well. They either go like, if you have this one extreme manager who says, if it needs to be done properly, it needs to be done by me. I tried to delegate once and they fucked it up, right? But then
Yeah.
you have the other extreme who goes, no, 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 I'll just hire better people than I am, and they give them freedom to do whatever the heck they want with no guidance whatsoever, and they mess up 100%, almost not 100%, but there's an exception to the rule, but more often they mess up than they don't. The balance is in the middle, right? You need to be into the details as a manager. You need to understand the nuances, but you also need to trust your people, build your people, delegate well, because otherwise you'll be always doing it yourself. You always just created yourself a job.
Yeah.
So I believe almost
True.
always uh, there's a saying in Estonian that says, you always build the church in the middle of the town, which basically says that you always go into the middle. And I like,
Mhm.
extremes are always bad, right? It's the one way we want to just black and white everything, but it's not. Life is mostly gray, gray
Oh,
area
oh,
everywhere.
oh my God,
So
is that true? It's
yeah,
like being a coach of a sports team, right? Like if you got to know a little bit about defense, even though the defender is better at defending than you should know still enough about defense so you can still be like, hey, you're actually doing this wrong, and this is what we want to do. Even though you have more skill than I do at this, like this is still not the whole. When it comes to being part of the whole, you actually could be more productive as a whole doing
for
this
sure.
this way or no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant. Oof, good stuff. Church at the center. This is all good. This is all
Yeah.
good, man. All right. We might move into some Southwestern stuff before we're here for 5 hours.
Let's go with
Is that all
Southwest.
right?
Yeah, that is fine.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna pour another shot, even though I'm heavy on the shots here. Jeez. Oh, how's the gin? Is the gin doing all right?
Tune is doing all right. I think I will. And I might. It's 8:30 p.m. here, so literally after this one, this gin will make me fall asleep really
you're
nicely.
gonna
So
sleep
this is
so good.
perfect. Yeah.
Speaking of a good schedule, good sleep is important. A
Yeah.
quick shout out from and some investment advice from some of our other partners, and then we'll jump into Southwestern stuff. Thought leader Dylan Barr is a stud, and we talked to him about his own investing. He opened up about growing up with poverty mindset. So actually, I totally relate to this, but basically it required a lot of deprogramming to get out of this poverty mindset of his subconscious, and a lot of us are probably like that. When even if we've had a ton of money and opportunity, there's a lot of self-sabotaging habits and stories that would prevent us from making the most out of a good thing. So that's why Dylan urges us all to invest in a mindset and a sales coaching to get over those nagging thoughts. So there, right there, is another reason why you should get coaching, is to get other people's perspectives on this. Quintin Roberts, again from Cardinal Senior Benefits, and some more insight that's positive. He initially talked about keeping track of where your time and money go, but what do you do after you find out where your money is going, where your time is going? Well, first, stick to your budget. Seriously, if you find yourself unable to, maybe you should rewrite it and do some more fun things. But after you actually follow through with that and gain confidence, sticking to your budget, celebrate the win, build the momentum on all the little changes that you're making, and don't let yourself go without celebrating. Have fun into it. We're talking about this balance again. Change is inherently painful and intimidating, but it becomes fun when you chip away at the little wins until you get to the big wins. And then last but not least, Pat Roach. Some investing advice from Pat Roach. Obviously, someone to learn from with Southwestern Real Estate, and he's been enjoying himself traveling a lot. But here's what he had to say: when you set your calendar up, do it on a yearly scale. And then when it comes down to earnings, you set a goal to max out your retirement funds for the year by March. If you can do that in the first quarter, you'll have unstoppable confidence knowing that you're going to be set up in the future, and that all that extra money above bills becomes more like beer money, fun money that you can throw at more volatile things like crypto or whatever else you're interested in, or motorcycles. Also, invest in things like a spiritual coach and a sales coach. It's hard to keep your existential crisis inside. Let it out. So whether that's mental health counseling, whether that's sales coaching, whether that's spiritual coaching, whatever that it is that you think you need, also investing in that as well. A lot of our people are saying that balance, which is kind of the theme of this episode, is like learning to have a good balance and sticking to it. Brilliant stuff. All right, my friend. Well, shot number 2 for me.
Cheers
to you.
I'm halfway through the thing.
That was a better pour. I think that was about
all right. No, the second one just goes down more easily.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. You're probably right. Okay. So what we like to do at this point is we rewind the clocks back, go back to 2004 or 3, depending on when it was that you talked to someone. This is a different time in Europeans, because right now it's more common stream and mainstream that Europeans go to the United States to sell books. I understand from Simon. I don't know if you know Simon Stanish.
Really well.
Amazing. I love Stanish.
Shem is amazing.
Przemysław.
Yeah, I call him Shem. I don't even know how to pronounce it, and I'm local, right? But even I don't know how to pronounce it.
Shem. Amazing episode, by the way. If you guys haven't heard it, we actually have 2 with him. One, and sorry to if you go click, they should be on the link up here. One we did back in March. He's doing this fundraiser to help Ukraine and children, specifically families. So if you guys want to hear more about those details, go check that episode out. It was back in March. I think it was March 15th or something. It was before our 100th episode. It was a special episode we had with him. He also was our first European guest in the month of June. We had a really good conversation about what his company is now. Amazing guy, really, really smart dude. So make sure you check it out. But anyway, so he was your contemporary. He was selling right in that 05, 04, and he was telling me,
I would love to recruit Cem. I've been trying to, but he's not giving in that sense. So his own business is going well. Yeah. He's a great stud.
But anyway, I'm mentioning him because he was mentioning how it was a little different. So take us back 2003. How the heck did you first hear about this opportunity in the United States to sell books? And tell us kind of that story.
This one is a story. Well, it's not so much story about how I heard about selling books. That was easy. I went to a lecture and they said, "Do you want to hear about opportunities to work in States?" And I was like, "I want to," and that was the recruiting process. But my story with selling books, especially, is maybe a bit different one in that sense, or I don't know if it is. But so I'm from rural part of Estonia. The village that I'm from is the whole parish is 5,000 people. And again, like I loved what you said, you connect to not coming from wealth. I was the same way. We had food on the table and clothes on our back, but we weren't rich by any means. So um and here's my background a bit. I'm pretty sure these days, if I would be in middle school, I would be diagnosed ADD. No, I really doubt that it wouldn't. Like that
Really?
time, obviously that time in 2000, in 99 end of 1990s when I was in middle school, I was just considered an active kid. Nobody diagnosed crap out of it, right? But I'm pretty sure I'm ADD a bit and also dyslexic a bit. Um,
Oh,
so so um, so basically, how to say, uh, it's not that I didn't have the brain. Yeah, they come out and now zoom out, give them the part of the yeah museum. You found the museum. Here we go. So that's Estonia. Now so Tartu is just there where your mouse is.
right
Oh,
here.
I'll go back.
Yep,
Yeah,
right here.
there. Yeah, and the chin that I'm getting from is the island on your right, on your left, on the screen. Those ones exactly. That's where the chin is from. So,
The gin,
but
I
anyway.
see.
Yeah.
Our
And
friend.
so Finland, and yeah, zoom out Europe, picture of Europe a bit. So we are right on the border of Russia, right? Belarus is right there. Ukraine is a bit more south, but really,
Here's
this war
Ukraine.
hits us. Here's Ukraine. Belarus is right there. Latvia, Lithuania. So that's where I'm from, and that's where I am.
Hey, question for you, and sorry to interrupt the story, because but you mentioned this. Are you guys in Estonia nervous about Russia?
For
Like
sure.
after,
Not
okay,
just nervous, like Andrus, like let me be straightforward because this is all over the world. Ukrainians are fighting our war. If Ukraine fails, we will be next. There's no doubt about it. Whoever is thinking that we won't is dreaming. So that's why Pshem is doing what he's doing. We are sending everything we have for them, because we
mm,
would be the next. If they fail that war, we will see a war here in unless there's a regime change in Russia, which don't, if they win the war, there won't be.
not likely.
So it's not just nervousness. Like we are, personally, I brought guns back to the house, and I'm trying to open up my schedule. I'm trying to find balance in my schedule so I can join the Army Reserve and go and train properly again, because there's a big chance that we might need to. Uh,
Holy shit!
so this is not somewhere far. This is they are fighting our war. There's no doubt about it. If
Wow,
Putin could have his way, he would bring Soviet Union back to here as soon as he could. And only thing that will stop him is guys like us,
Ukraine
basically,
or
in
World War
Ukraine.
Three.
Well,
Oh
we'll not
man,
go into politics, but honestly, I do think that Joe could have at least not said publicly out loud to everybody that doesn't matter what happens, we will not come. Like that is a stick move. I'm sorry, that shouldn't, like, I don't know
oh
who
no, for
advised that
sure.
one, but I mean, we should have troops ready to go. We don't need to go, but we should at least have them ready to go. So they would have to put some tanks on this border as well, and would make life in Ukraine a bit easier.
Right.
Um, but the part that Joe said publicly out loud to everybody, that doesn't matter what happens, we're not going to go. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't know who advised that, but
That's,
that's just stupid.
I mean, I heard that too, and I was like, what the fuck are you saying? That's leaving a bunch of people. Oh, okay. Wow. So,
So,
but it
but
is,
that
but
goes
it
into a
is a
different topic.
scary thing. Yeah, yeah.
That is a scary thing.
That's a scary
That is a scary
situation,
thing.
my man. Oh,
So,
fuck.
so yeah. So basically, back to my story. So
Yeah, small
ADD,
town. Yeah,
dyslexic,
ADD,
small
dyslexia.
d, yeah, just a bit. And basically, I was, how to say, but I was really good at one thing. I was really good at my logic and ability to talk my way out of stuff. Um, right. So I was also a flimsy kid. I was premature a bit. I was flimsy quite a bit. So I was bullied a bit, and I learned through dyslexia and through, well, not really. I mean, I struggled with grammar basically. I mean, it's not like I couldn't read or anything. It's just like I struggled with grammar a bit, and I had trouble staying put and paying attention. So I learned a way to talk my way out of stuff. Right. My literature teacher once told me, said, Andrus, like, I wrote a book book report, right? And he's like, Andrus, I mean, based on what you write, I understand that you haven't read the book. but your logic is so solid that you get enough things right that I need to give you a C. That was literally her words. She was like, I understand you haven't read a book, but your logic is good enough that based on the bits and pieces of info that you've collected about this book, you can
It's
get a
good
book
enough.
report done, but good enough, right? You get a C. So that was my way, and so that was my plan, really. Like, how to say, Andrus, I have to be honest. I wasn't strong enough to do sports. I wasn't bright enough to do science, and I didn't like doing stuff with my hands. Like now, I can hold my weight in a garage. I've broken enough motorcycles that I'm pretty good at fixing them. But at that point, I wasn't really good with my arms, with my hands as well. So really, my plan for future was always that, well, I was a chairman of the student council, right? I did speeches in high school. Like I was like, the sales thing, this people thing, I will be good with that, man.
Talking my way through things.
Yeah, I'll talk my way through things, right? So, and I have to be really honest, if when they first mentioned about selling books, um, this was I did the math on the, you said eight units, $8 per unit. This was the only job that I knew that potentially I could make enough money in the summer to buy a motorcycle. Like I've always wanted motorcycles since I was a kid. Like I still remember being 13-year-old boy, being like, there was a girl that was called Miriam. This is a funny story. There was a girl, and I really liked her. Obviously, I was 13, and it's not like we dated or anything. I don't think we even kissed. But because I liked that girl, I decided that the first bike I will buy, I will call Miriam. And I still do. I still have Miriam in the garage. The dirt bike is always Miriam. It's like,
That's right.
which one will you buy today? The other are BMWs, the other are model like GSs or RRs. Miriam is still Miriam. The dirt bike is always Miriam. Um, so anyway, wanted a motorcycle, right?
That first
Um,
is special, baby. That first is special.
so now this is Miriam number 9. Like I've gone through quite a bit of, like, some of them went peacefully, someone didn't went that peacefully, but it's still Miriam. Doesn't really
The
matter.
memory remains. The memory
Yeah.
lives on. The
Um,
legend of Miriam. That's a good
so
one there.
so I wanted to buy a Miriam, basically, right? So that was the reason really I signed up for selling books. But now, how to say? Let's be honest. Like, does the part that you can talk your way out of stuff make you a good salesperson? Of course not, right? I didn't have structure. I didn't pay attention. I was figuring that I will just be naturally good at selling books because I can know how to talk to people. Like, that's like, not looking at back to it right now. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say, but that literally was my plan, right? So like, Andrus, only summer that I didn't do well was my first. My first summer,
Oh,
I barely made money. Actually, if I look at all the expenses that I put in, maybe made a couple of $100. I mean, like, so my book selling career didn't start. I wasn't the top first by any means. Actually, my first week out, I didn't sell a thing. My second week, I think I sold like one client or something. Like, my manager actually says there was a moment where he was thinking that if this guy doesn't pick up, I need to send
you
him
gotta go
home.
home. Yeah, you gotta
Yeah,
go. You gotta go.
yeah.
Oh my
So only summer I wasn't on the superstar book. Only summer I wasn't in the top 100 was my first summer.
Well,
And
if you would have had a
so
good first summer, you might have been number one. You might have been Amy Brock Devine
maybe.
of all time.
Remember, it's about skill, not about the ranking, not
That's right.
about
That's right.
the
That's right.
not about the money. It's about
Oh,
skill.
you are
So
your units, man. You are your units. You sold
yeah,
2,000. Loser.
yeah,
Loser.
true.
That's what they would say. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's amazing.
Yeah. So now, but then my second summer, so then that was my challenge. Like, how to say, like, I realized that. So this first summer scared the crap out of me because I was like,
Now,
well, Andrus, if like, because remember, my plan was that, I'm not good with science, I'm not good with my hands, I'm not a sports guy. My plan was people and business, and selling books proved that you're average in that as well.
right.
And in that moment, I was like, well, maybe I will be a good husband or a dad, but I mean, that was long far out. So that wasn't the plan. So in some ways, I was like, that really did scare me because I was like, maybe then I will be shitty at pretty much everything.
Mm.
Um, another thing happened. We've mentioned this a bit already, but my dad actually did pass just before my first summer.
Oh,
Um, and
dude.
how to say, like, my dad was my, dad gave me money, dad gave me a, like, I want to say car, but it wasn't really a car, it was more of like a machine. But anyway, but basically suddenly my dad wasn't there, and we did it, like I told you, we weren't rich in the first place. Now dad's income gone, we were struggling in that sense. So how to say, so these two things come into play. First of all, I figured out that, Andrus, if you're not going to learn how to sell books, if you're not good at selling books, if you're not good with people, you just might not be good at anything. And second, I was a household, like, I needed income, basically.
Yeah.
I needed to
You
make money.
it. Yeah.
So my second summer, I went in with a vengeance in that sense. Like, I actually did learn. Like, I actually started focusing. My ADD kind of ADD people work really well under pressure, and I was under pressure. Right. So I honed in. I drove my manager nuts with questions. Like, literally, my manager. I remember in some point I was like, "What does it?" My manager in that point was the only Estonian who had ever sold President's Club, so 600 units a week. He was the only one in that point. Like, this is early days of European book sales, right? And he and we look at him as semi god in that sense, because like this guy had sold President's Club, right? But in my mind, I look at Andrus and I was like, his name was actually Andrus, Andrus Martin. I look at Andrus and I was like, Andrus, like, he's not, how to say, he didn't at least appear that much more intelligent. He didn't, how to say, I mean, it's a question of looks, but he didn't look that much more attractive. But that's obviously a question of how you, on a lady who looks at us. Yeah. And I remember, and he worked in the same turf that I did, and he had the same books that I did. But my first summer, I think 1 week I sold 100 units. Most of the time I was under. He was hitting President's Club. And then I realized that it really is, how to say, it really is skill. Like, most people don't understand how important sales skill is, and how much, like, they think that if you're good at sales, you'll make 10% more money. If you're good at sales, you make 10 times more the money, right? It's like in most businesses, if you're really good,
Right.
like the top producer usually makes times and times over what an average does. So, and in that sense, in Andrus, I was like, he's not that much brighter, he's not that much good looking, but obviously he knows how to do it. So obviously it's a skill. So in some ways, I found the person who I know could teach me, and I also broke my belief barrier in the sense that, well, if he can do it, I should be able to do it, right?
Right.
So I really practiced, I really learned, I went to follow, I did whatever the heck I needed to do. And in second summer, so first summer I sold, like, today's units, I probably sold like 800-900. Second summer I sold about like 3 times more, so what, 3,000, maybe a bit less than 3,000,
give or take.
And give or take, yeah. And then the third summer I sold 6,000-7,000, and then I stayed at that 8,000 level pretty much pretty much every single year. I sold President's Club in my career. I did the math at one point. I think I've sold President's Club more than 80 times. So basically, after I got to the level, I went out, and first week out on a turf, I hit President's Club. Like, that's why I stayed for 12 summers, because I got really good at it. So I was making 60-70K in a summer, plus the team was another 30 to 50. So I was making 100K in a year, where, and again, in that time in Estonia, average income was probably 25. Right. So I mean, I was making decent money in Estonia terms. Yeah. So that's my story.
So many questions. Okay. Question number 1. So where did you sell your first summer? Where was that?
Florida. Orlando, Florida.
Oh,
not just my first summer. My first 4 summers were in Orlando, Florida. And then my 5th one, I really ventured out and I was ready for the extreme. So I went to Tampa.
Look at you expanding into the same fucking place. It's so funny. Tampa is a smaller Orlando. First of all, I had family in Orlando. Orlando's probably one of the cities in the United States that I've been to most times in my life. I like it. It's it's got its problems, but it's fine.
It got its problems.
Yeah. But
I did it as well.
In Orlando, okay, as a and I asked all our European guests this before, or like our non-US citizen or non-US born guests before. When you come to the US, I mean, they all had like this perspective of what the United States was like. Some of them were, it's like, oh, it's like Hollywood and it's like New York City. And what was your perspective on it? And then when you got here, what was it like, and how was it different or the same when you arrived in Nashville and in Orlando? Like the culture shock and the
Well, I mean, that was what, 20 years ago now, right? But
yeah,
I
I
mean,
guess if you can
if
remember,
I'm really, like, I do remember this part. Like, always, like, I guess, yes, like, how to say, I expected that well, and I mean, I expected what it was. I don't think there was a huge culture shock in that sense. But there was definitely a culture shock on my first couple of days there, because my manager was cheap. Um, so if you know Orlando, our first night he booked a motel in Pine Hills,
yeah,
which is
okay,
one of the crime,
ghetto,
bit more,
yeah,
bit not the best
it's
area of the
rough,
town,
it's
right?
rough, yeah,
It's
it's
pretty
rough.
rough,
Right,
right?
you don't want to
So,
be in Pine Hills at 11 p.m. at night, like just kind
mm,
of casually wandering around. Not
mhm.
a good spot.
So
Yeah,
not a good spot. Like, this is area where you're in a motel, they will rip out air conditioning to go and take your stuff, basically, kind of thing, right?
yeah.
And Orlando, it's muggy, and every night there's
Oh,
a thunderstorm, right? So I remember my manager going out to have to get dinner, I think, or something, or I don't know, or they went to go check an HQ or something. I was alone. It started, major thunderstorm came in, right? And only had, like, I didn't see a single white person, basically, I'm from rural Estonia. I really hadn't seen a black person until I sold
ever.
books, pretty much ever, pretty much, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so um, so I remember that being a culture shock. I was like, Andrus, what the heck you got yourself into? Right, that was a part. But then, obviously, I mean, I sold in. First time I sold to President's Club was Apopka, Florida, which is really nice. Like a mid income,
Avoca.
nice suburb. Apopka, yeah.
I've
Uh,
been to Avoca. Yeah,
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 and then
yeah,
Claremont, and I mean, there's some great, nice suburbs where you can, I loved working there. People are straightforward. Like, I love Florida in that sense. The weather was miserable for selling books, right?
yeah.
I was
It's
I
awful.
was soaking wet from
It's so
from
hot.
so hot, but the people are straightforward New Yorkers, pretty much, right? They're straight to the point, which my fighter type clicks quite well. The income is pretty decent, and the school system sucks.
Yeah,
So
that's
our books are, it's not that difficult if you get past the weather, basically. If you get past the rejection of, like, you do get rejected a heck of a lot more than Minnesota, for example, where I sold my last 3 summers, where people are just like, they're more laid back and they will let you in. They don't, it's not that,
yeah.
you don't have to approach that easily or that hard, I guess, what I mean. Um, so that's what I remember from my first. But I mean, most of selling books I sold in really nice neighborhoods. I got to know the community. I got to know the people. I mean, I enjoyed, like, I miss selling books every now and then. I still coach couple of my clients are book kids, the top performers who want to get even to the
Yeah.
next level. So they send me their audios, and every single freaking summer I'm like, I need to go and sell at least a day. Let's see if I can still do it in that sense. Oh, another cool thing. I bet, has any of your clients, I bet somebody has talked about book mares, right? Like, seeing the
Oh
nightmares
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
still about selling books, right?
Yeah, years
So
later. Yeah.
Andres, this is a unique thing with me. I guess I sold so long and so well and so confidently that I get booked in mares. They start off as me being in a book field getting rejected, and I, in my sleep, I literally turn the mom around and I close them. Like, I'm not kidding you. I've had several of those. Like I guess I did it so long that it, like, literally in my mind, subconsciously, I'm like, I'm getting rejected and nobody buys, and then
Oh,
subconsciously my mind says, keep at it, you will close them eventually. And I do. In the end of in my nightmare, I actually end up getting a sale and closing them. Like, that's how
that's
weird it got in my
hilarious.
mind.
That is
So
hilarious. Oh my god. Nobody has everybody a lot of some not a lot. Some people have mentioned book mirrors, but nobody's mentioned them being starting as a book mayor turning into a dream, into a pony. Nobody's talking about like
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
straight up like some Bill Zizzy shit where it's like, oh, and then she bought and her sister bought and her
It's
sister's
just,
sister bought
yeah, yeah,
and then grandma bought. And then they bought a whole set for the school. It was five sets. Bill
yeah. I
Zizzy.
don't know if it's
Bro.
ever been that bad, but I always ended up with a sale and kind of falling asleep calmly, going, yeah, 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 I got this. So that's what 12 summers do, I think, or 80 times in a
That's
PC. That's
that's crazy. Oh man. Okay. Rapid fire questions. Are you ready for this? I have like just
sure.
quick questions. Okay. Favorite squirrel from Augmentino?
I'll persist until I succeed, by far.
Number three. Cool. I mean,
Yeah.
that's probably pretty much everybody's. Which, by the
Yeah.
way, that has a. I'll tell you the story at the end of this of how that scroll it became how this podcast started. But that's a whole different
But
story.
also, like, I will greet this day with love in my heart,
Number
right?
two.
That one has been a big one for me for sure because I have to say I'm introverted. I'm a driver type A. I was miserable. Like if they didn't buy, I like how to say like I really struggled with that one and like how to say like one of my things that I always say that you can't do sales if you hate people, right? You need to
Mm,
figure out a way to love and forgive and love people, because if you hate people, you're not going to sell much, right? That's maybe the biggest. Like I remember my first summers, my first couple of summers, I came back home. I didn't say to anybody that I was back home, and I took Miriam and I went for a week in the woods, like I mean deep woods, just riding and not camping. I mean I probably got home by evening, but I needed to be away from the people because I took everything so personally. I kept everything inside and so on. And then I learned like how to say like I always say this that people are not against you. They're just for themselves, right? It's not personal. They don't want bad for you. They just want good for themselves. Like they do what's
yeah,
good for them. It's not about you. Like and then more the self talk of like if they would know me, they would like me.
they would love me. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
that's I've said that probably tens of thousands of times in that sense because it's true. Like I do think that I do think I'm a good person in that sense. Like if they would know me, they would like me, but they don't know me, and that's why they're rude and that's why they're mean, and that's okay. Like I don't need to change everybody's opinion, right? But yeah, greet this day with love in my heart is by far
Ooh,
also one of the big ones.
that's great. That's really really good. Um, best state to sell in?
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Okay,
I love
okay.
Minnesota, but also maybe how to say it might have not been the state. Like by when I went to Minnesota, my daughter was born already. My wife and my daughter were with me. My host family, Todd and Sonia, Ellings, and so they, by the way, their son sold books as well. Todd and Sonia became like grandparents for my baby girl. Todd was probably you talked about how some people talk how they found God in the book field. If anybody has had an impact on my spiritual life, Todd probably has had my biggest impact on my spiritual life. So I think me loving
Wow.
Minnesota wasn't maybe perhaps the turf that was that amazing. It was just where I was at the life and the people that
You just
maybe
connected.
God then connected with. Yeah. Uh, so
Wow.
so
Okay.
yeah, you're
Okay.
giving me rapid fire questions, but I'm taking too long to answer them, perhaps. But
No, 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 no. Rapid fire questions is in like just a series of them, but please take as long as you want. That these are beautiful stories. Like the fact that you met someone who, because I know what you mean. Your favorite territory isn't necessarily attached to like wherever you sold the most, although it could be. I mean, I'm not saying that that's not a good
I
reason
sold
why
the
it
most
shouldn't
in
be.
Missouri. I actually really enjoyed
Oh,
Missouri as well. My best summer in units, Missouri.
no
I love
way.
that as well. Big farms, I just fitted in so well there. People were
Well,
friendly. Oh, that was a great summer.
yeah. Well, I was gonna ask you, suburbs, big brick, or country? Or like what was the best mix in your opinion for you? Because people like to say territory doesn't matter. It fucking matters. It
It
does.
does
We're not
matter. It
gonna.
does matter. Well,
But
but
for
that's what's
you, what was
unique.
your favorite?
Country. Like how
Country's
to say?
so
If you
fun.
ask me
Yes,
what my soul loved, country. Like
it's so
gravel
good.
roads,
Yeah,
Minnesota farms. I mean, amazing.
yeah,
But
yeah.
here's the kicker, though. The reason but if I'm really honest, the reason I'm so good at what I do right now and so many things that I have in my life and the persistence and the skill, I learned that in the suburbs of Orlando. Like I learned more
Interesting.
because they were heavy knocks, right? It was big brick. They had money. They were in your face. Um, like you had to approach 6 times to get in. So that forced me to learn the skill. So for life,
Mm.
like what was more influential? Florida. What I enjoyed more, Minnesota by far. I mean, my wife was there. I had a dirt bike there. I mean, I also the Todd and Sonia's son at that point was in high school playing football. He got me. We went riding dirt bikes with his friends. I sold the entire football team. Like I was a part of the community. People still. I have kids who go there and sell books, and they still come back to me and say, Andrus, they still talk about you. I haven't sold books for 7 years. Right. So like what was good for the soul? Minnesota. What was good for learning the job? Florida. Like I still, one of the reasons I actually stayed in Florida for so many years is because I actually wanted my rookies to have a hard start, because I believe that if they get through Florida and they survive, they can sell everywhere. Now
Yeah,
that my quitting ratio of people was a bit higher than most because I deliberately sent them to war. Uh, but the
it's
ones,
hard.
uh, but the ones who came through, some of them are in my team right now. Most of them are really good friends. Like the ones who came through and learned the skill, I would go to war with them anytime, any day.
Yeah. Oh
So,
my God.
so.
Massachusetts is brutal that way too. I sold in New
Ah,
York in the country my first summer, and I did like 4,000 units, and then I went to Massachusetts the next summer. Holy shit, man! They were so mean. That wasn't the weather there. It was just they were fucking. What the fuck you
mm,
want? You just knock on
yeah,
the fuck you want, like almost everybody.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What?
That
What?
was Florida.
They didn't train me for this. They didn't train me for that. I'm Andres. You must be the dad. Yeah. What the fuck do you want? You're like, it's
I know
so
exactly.
crazy.
That was Florida. And
Move, move, move. Yeah.
if you learn that, everything else is like that's everything else is. Then a Minnesotan mom who says, "Honey, what are you up to?" I mean, that's just too easy. Like,
Do you want to just give
so
me a check? You just buy
yeah. Do you want to do this for 20 minutes, or do you just want to give me a check for $1,000 in that sense? Like it's uh, so. Um,
Oh, so true. So true. So true. Oh man. I forgot where we were. Oh, okay. So favorite
Rapid
sport,
fire.
favorite state. Oh yeah, favorite state. And then oh yeah. Okay. Um, if you were like thinking of a way of like between two people, let's say they had the same amount of skill, they have the same amount of like knowledge, and we're talking specifically with selling books, although this could be with anything. What would you say makes a person better at selling books than another? Like they have the same skills, same experience, same territory, same host family. What's gonna make one win over the other?
Attitude, right?
Ooh.
It's attitude. It's like that was maybe the like okay. So one last story. Well, maybe not one last story, but we'll do a bonus story as well. But I really do think there's a difference between my first and my second summer. Like yes, my skill got better, but my attitude really got better as well. Like my first year, I really do think that I was just surviving. Like, and so let me tell you a story. Like this was because I had my 2 summers, right, were exactly the same turf, Orlando, Florida. Different neighborhood, but pretty much the same.
Yeah, same idea.
Um, my first summer, I still remember. I knocked on a door. I think it was 4th of July or somewhere near there. A mom came to the door and said, "You poor baby, it's so hot outside. What are you doing here? It's 4th of July. You should be with your family." And I remember gearing up a bit and going, "Yep, but I promise that I'll stay through or I'll stick through it. It's a challenge, but it's worth it," or something in those terms, right? And my second summer, it almost was almost picture perfectly the same kind of mom, almost the same words. "You poor baby, it's so hot outside. What are you doing here? It's 4th of July. You should be with your family." And I was like, "Check out the suntan. I'm getting a pretty decent suntan, and I'm in Orlando, Florida. My friends are collecting money to come here, right?" Now, same mom, same turf. That was me being different. This is really a really good friend of mine, Ronald Casavelli, who's still a DSM.
Yeah.
He was the number one rookie from Estonia that year. My first year, we started together, right? And he outsold me like 3 times my first summer, right? So I asked Ronald in the end of the summer, saying, "Ronald, what the fuck, basically, like." like 3 times more than I did. I mean,
What'd you do? Yeah.
what to do, right? And they literally word for word, this is what he said. He was like, Andrus, you think there's 5 schedules, right? Working, demos, sleeping, reading, and eating. There's actually 6. The 6th one is attitude.
Whoa.
That was Ronald's words, word for word. And I really did. I do remember this was 20 years ago, but I was like, and he was like, if you have a shitty attitude, you're off schedule. If you have a shitty attitude toward your work, you are off schedule. So that was one of my big things on my second summer. I did, like, it wasn't that easy. I still needed to learn how to use self-talk. I needed to learn how to push my positive focus. I also needed to learn how to stay focused in the first place, because I was ADD all the time. I still remember, like, even in my second summer, it wasn't like my second summer was perfect. My first 3 weeks of my second summer, I was doing about the same, 100 units a week. And and I still remember this part. It was a 24th of June. Why this is meaningful is 24th of June is Midsummer Day, this part of the world. This is the biggest party we have in the summer. Fires up everywhere, good meat, beers. Like your 4th of July is our Midsummer Day, right? And it was 24th of June on my second summer. And I remember sitting in my car. I was in OL. I had a car at that point. And I remember daydreaming how much fun it would be to be at home, drinking beer and spending time with then it was my girlfriend. Now it's my wife, right? And I remember waking up from that dream, and I literally said out loud, I was like, Andrus, for fuck's sake, if you wanted to have beer at home, you could have. You came here voluntarily, and not just once, you came here the second time. Right?
Yeah.
Second time. Not the first one can be a mistake. Second one is not a mistake. You came here on a second time, and now you're dreaming about being home. And I slapped myself. And that doesn't hurt that much, but this is what I did my entire second summer. Every time I discovered myself daydreaming, I did this again. And after you do this about 50 times, this gets really sore.
Yeah. On your hand.
It really started
You're slapping your hand, by the way. People listening, you didn't slap your face.
Yeah.
You slapped your hand.
Sorry. Yeah. I'm slapping my hand. My hand was on the steering wheel. I used my other hand and I just slapped my hand. And I started doing this my entire time, every time I was daydreaming. So I stopped daydreaming because pretty quickly, it's like Maslow's dogs, right? You ring a bell, the drool comes. Every time you daydream, pain comes. So really, not really quickly, but pretty quickly, my brain said, we're not thinking about girlfriends. We're thinking about next door because this will hurt, right? So yeah, that was maybe
brilliant.
So
brilliant.
I'm definitely. They say there's a carrot and a stick person, right? I'm definitely a stick person more than I'm a carrot person. Like I need to force myself. The pain was what got me focused, not the reward of a dirt bike. So I'm definitely more a stick person than I'm a carrot person.
That's good to know about yourself, by the way. And for people who don't understand that, it's same thing as towards motivated and away motivated, where it's like, as in like you're motivated towards a goal, but some people are actually motivated away from a goal. Like as in like maybe you're scared of being broke, so that's you're away motivated from being broke. Other people are motivated for being rich, so they chase it. It's like a two different, good thing. Okay, last rapid fire question, and then we'll go to ponytails because we're getting here on time, and I know you got children. Yeah. Favorite advanced sales tape.
Crap, there were so many, and I haven't listened to so many of them. I don't even remember.
There's Bill Zizzy, Pat Roach, Roger Sipe.
Yeah, Roger and Pat were really influential. Like I love Pat still. Like we actually did a training together. And Roger Sipe was another one. Like I still like Roger. If you're listening, like this is a good one. I still use him. I'm pretty sure it was Roger who did this. So
it could have been Roger Smith. There's Roger Smith, Roger Sipe, Pat Roach, Bill Zizzy, and Dave Rosen. God damn, that was a good one.
There was many. Yeah, I don't know. Let's just I enjoyed a heck of a lot of them. I listen all of them. They were influential. Like I guess this is the podcast of that time was advanced sales tape, right? You always listen to them. I listened so many of them. That was my way of learning how to sell books, for sure.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, okay. Now it's time for the ponytails, and now I'm gonna give one more shout out to some of our friends of ours, and then you think of your favorite story, and
Yeah,
then we'll tell it, and then we'll close it up. Okay. So number one, Oscar and Oliver with VDisain. They're the masterminds behind their website. So if you guys want to go check that out, our merch is out there. Go buy a hat. Go buy a shirt. We got fanny packs that say units on them. Come on now. Go get yourself a fanny pack. Get yourself a mug. Whatever you guys want. Go to the ponytailspodcast.com. Go find our merch section right there. But if you guys are looking to be sure to improve on your social media presence and on your online presence, you're going to need a website. Don't go the cheap route. You get what you pay for. And these guys are doing it. They're right in Estonia via Designly. They're still, one of them still selling books. Oliver's working in I think he's in Tartu as well, actually. But yeah, anyway, make sure you guys reach out to us. We get you guys there, get your website upgraded.
they're
It's
really good at building websites, by the way. They are extremely good at building websites.
yeah, they're awesome, actually. Really, really smart guys too. So also, if you're in the US, it's very beneficial to you because uh Estonian currency with us, when being book people, is actually pretty fraction of the price that you would pay someone for that same exact work here. So very beneficial for you. Highly recommend. And then
And
our
their
last
English is
sponsor.
good. I mean, they're not like, it's not like you're talking to Eastern Europeans. You're talking to, you don't probably even realize that
Yeah,
you're talking to
it,
somebody from Tartu.
yeah, it was brilliant. These guys are great, and we love working with them. So absolutely. Last but not least, talk about scaling investments, and then back to the investment theme. Julio Hernandez with EnLight.Energy. He's been in the solar business for 6 years. In solar, actually in Florida, I went door to door with EnLight for a long time there, for a few months there actually. So his company has more than doubled every year in business, and the things that he would invest in last year are already different than the things he would have invested 5 years ago. So before, he couldn't invest in paid leads. Now he's able to provide his sales reps with pre-qualified at bats. So when you have a long-term vision for you and your company you work with, it quickly becomes obvious what needs you have to complete so that your job can be done with excellence. Write those down. Working on phases makes it so your business investments become like unlocked superpowers, or like grabbing the superstar from Mario and crushing it. And then, of course, last one is Cardinal Senior Benefits with Quintin Roberts. We've talked about them before. A lot of really good wisdom, guys. When we started working with them, they had 27 people on their team, on their roster. They now have 31. 4 people have come through the podcast and got recruited by them because they heard him on the show. So it's super exciting that we're making a difference in other companies, and it's super fun to be a part of it. So one of the main reasons that people are going there is because they have a solid culture. They kept some of the good things about that culture in Southwestern, and they removed some of the bad shit like the cold calling or the unbalanced life or the lack of freedom. So make sure you guys get some more inquiries on there. Their top performers are earning anywhere between $12,000 to $15,000 per week gross profit, and they've done that work in about 31 to 34 hours. So back to that balance that we've been talking about on the show today. We mentioned it before, they're on growth mode. They're looking to double again in 2022. Well on their way, I should say. And if you want to find out why so many people are going there, make sure you refer yourself or a friend. And we can't promise you a job, but we can get you an interview for sure. And then, of course, there's a $500 referral bonus if someone gets hired. So there you go. You're welcome, y'all. All right. So here we go, Andrus. We made it to the end. We made it to the
Yeah,
ponytails. I know you got a good one. And then let's tell this
we'll see.
story, and we can wrap her up.
My one is, it might be a bit different. Let me talk. Let's do a blue light award story, but that will be a different kind of blue light story.
Yeah.
So blue light award is when, yeah, exactly. Cups being called on you. So I got that a lot, by the way. Um, because there's a couple of reasons. Well, and there's a story inside a story, but again, Orlando, Florida, hard knocks, a lot of approaching, and I really did get good at approaching well. And literally, I'll give you the quick one, and then I'll give you the long one. Quick one is like this: I got so good at approaching. So this is how they taught me. They were like, Andrus, when they give you an objection, whoever flinches, right? You look to eye, you drop the eye contact, you kind of flinch a bit. That is like my sales director, Chris Adams, at that time said, Andrus, think that you're in a boxing match, and whoever flinches first gets a hook in. So he's basically like, doesn't matter what they tell you, you do not flinch. You go in a second approach, right? And so second summer, I pounded that one in, right? And then in my, I don't know if it was the third summer or end of second summer, I started getting cops called on me quite often. And I was like, Chris, we had a morning meeting with Chris and a phone call. And I was like, Chris, what the heck? You know, like it seems like every day I get a blue light award for some reason. And Chris smiles and says, Andrus, I think when people give you an objection and you literally don't even blink an eye, that might be scary a bit. So literally, I think it was my third summer, I forced myself to start flinching. Like mom said, "We're not interested." I said, "I guess you haven't heard about me yet." Like I just turned my
You look
picture away
down.
of it. Like I had to like I have to be softer. So I was like, "Oh, I guess you haven't heard about me yet, right?" I had to flinch. So, but anyway, that's a small blue light award. Sorry. Now this was my fourth summer. Orlando, Florida is also unique in that sense that there's a lot of subdivisions. Most subdivisions have no soliciting signs. So no soliciting,
Yes.
don't knock on doors, right? What's unique about them is that they put it in the front of the subdivision, which basically technically says, don't go and knock on any door here.
Yep.
Well, that's 99% of the subdivisions. Like if you're going to sell books in Orlando, Florida, and you're not going into the subdivisions where there's a known soliciting sign, you literally do not have turf to work in.
Yep.
And what's unique about them, what few people don't understand, is that like that sign is completely legal. Like the only way you can do that, you can say that on your own property. Like this is my house, your castle rule. Like you can put it on your sign saying, "Do not knock on my door." And as a salesperson, you should be respecting that, right? But most of subdivisions are the streets are publicly owned, and there is no right whatsoever to block the entire city-owned street and say this applies to everybody. Right, this
Right.
goes against freedom of speech, which is one of the most sacred rights that you guys have there.
For now. For
So
now.
for
I
now,
guess.
we'll see how that goes exactly. So technically, you were allowed to sell there, right? But now, but that also meant that it really depended on HOA, and it almost this is funny. It almost depended on where the heck the president of the homeowners association lives.
Yeah.
If that president lived in the start of the subdivision, I was fucked pretty quickly. If that
Yep.
person lived in the end of the subdivision, I usually worked my way through, and when I get there, they kick me out, right?
Yeah.
So, but that meant every now and then, well, maybe a bit more often than every now and then, they called the cops on me and said, "You have to leave." And then I explained, and politely explained why I won't leave, and so on. And there was thing, right? So this was my fourth summer or third summer, I think. I was in Claremont, Florida, and I think in some point the cops just got annoyed by me because they had to come out every week to check me, and basically, so I was knocking on a door. I came out from a sit down. There was a deputy in front, and the deputy was like, "Andrus, you can't knock on doors here. Go away."
Oh
And I
no.
was like, I tried to explain, and he was like, "Andrus, you don't understand. You can knock on doors here. If I see you here again, I will give you a ticket. Go away." Now, here's my magical card, and I'm hoping, Chris, if you listen to this, this is I so much admire you for this. One advantage of working in the same turf for 3 summers is that I knew alumni. And in Orlando area, there's Christopher Largy who sold books, and Chris is at that point, and I don't like I know he's doing a bit of politics work as well, but he's a really good lawyer basically. And Chris hosted a Sunday meeting, and obviously we clicked, and Chris helped me through the year so much. So obviously, so when I got kicked out of that subdivision, I called Chris and said, "Chris, this happened again. The cops pushed me out," and he said he will give me a ticket if I don't leave. And Chris was like, "Andrus, I'm so sick and tired of these guys. Go get that ticket. I will go for the court for you, and I will settle this once and for all." Like he was on a vengeance by that point. Like he was like, "Fucking go and take it.
Let's
Like don't
go.
let's go.
Do it.
Like they
Fuck
can't
it.
they can't harass you this way, right?" He was on my side. I have to say, like Chris, if you do listen to this, I was a 23-year-old kid in a country that I am not from, in a culture that I do not know. And my confidence was all because of Chris. I was like, Chris will come after me. Chris will help me if I have to. I owe Chris so much from those years. So I turned around. I turned around and went to knock on the door. Right, the cop was gone, and the cop was gone, and I got a new sit down. I ended the sit down. I walked out from the house, and the deputy was back. And the deputy was pissed. The deputy was like, why? And I don't know if he used F words, but the deputy was, why are you back? And I looked at him and I said, sir, I thought about it. And if you kick me out of this one, you kick me out of the next one. And sooner or later, I don't have anywhere to work. I know the law is on my side. I was thinking that I get that ticket and I'll go to the court and we'll settle this. The cop in that point said, I won't give you a ticket. I will arrest you right now. And he handcuffed me and started to put me in the car. I had a follower. I had a young girl following me that day, and I didn't know. I've never been arrested before, so I didn't know what to do. So I didn't also flinch in that situation. I just looked at the girl and said, "Take my phone, call Chris, and come and bail me out." And I sat into the cruiser voluntarily. He didn't have to push or anything. And literally, there I am sitting, and the guy and the deputy is on the cruiser door. And for some reason, I was expecting he will slam the door and just start driving, right? But he's standing there, keeping the door open. I'm just sitting there with my handcuffs, right? And he goes, Andrus, how much does your books cost? And I was like, well, I don't know, like $100 to thousands, like depends on what you want, right? And he was like, is $1,000 worth going to jail for? Or is $100 actually? Is $100 worth going to jail for? And I'm like, well, no, but where will I work? Right? And I shut up. And the guy, and then I realized the deputy was bluffing. He had no grounds whatsoever. He knew the law. He was just trying to intimidate me, and he probably would have.
Didn't
I
know way
was
to
a
arrest you.
23-year-old kid. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and he stood there a bit. There was a 30-second pause, and he said, "You know what? I don't want to take to jail somebody who's working." He uncuffed me, and rest of the summer didn't get a single blue
Nothing.
light award. Nothing, absolutely nothing. I didn't see a winch of them. Like literally, when somebody called, they were like, "No, we checked this guy out. He's good. We're not coming out. He can do what he does. He's a solid business." Like basically, they had to vouch for me on the phone because they didn't come out anymore.
Wow. You were in the
So,
car in cuffs.
and I backed down a deputy from arresting me. But obviously, again, this applause is more for Chris than to me. Without Chris, I would have ran. I would
Yeah, because
have
you wouldn't have
changed
known.
her. I would have. Well, I would have known, but I didn't. I mean, I don't know how to fight for myself in the court, and it's usually not worth it in that sense, right?
Yeah.
But because Chris said, Andrus, don't worry about it, because Chris also sold for years and years, or I don't know years and years, but several years. He knew how important the schedule was. So he literally told me that go get the ticket. You don't have to come. I will go for you in the court. You're not going to break your schedule. I will fix this. Go get the ticket, basically. He was like, go get the ticket.
Do it.
Right. So I mean that's his
Wow.
confidence and his willingness, and this goes maybe really well into this camaraderie thing that you're talking, that you can meet anybody just because you sold books. Chris didn't need to help me. He helped me because I sold books, and he was like, well, somebody helped me. And to this day, actually, this is a really good closing point. To this day, if I can help, I help, because somebody helped me. There were so many situations where people came and helped me with
Yeah.
no benefit for their own. They gave me gas, they fixed my bike, they helped me with my car, they gave me a place to live. Like there were so
They
many people
fed
who just
you.
they fed me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so and some of them do their own job. They were like, Andrus, I'll fight for you. Go to court, right? Go and get a ticket. So
Wow.
I think that is what book selling does. That is the camaraderie, but that's also greeting the day with a love in your heart and helping people, even if they annoy you, and even if they, you know. So
Even if they go past 9 o'clock.
yes, significantly.
Well, man, oh, what a brilliant end. My God. Well, thank you so much. Great story. You defeated the fucking authorities. You did your thing because you were doing the right thing. That's a great story. Guys, if you're going to get a hold of Andrus Albi, you got to go to LinkedIn. Just look him up. He's with Southwestern Consulting. And if you want to learn more, get in contact with him, maybe get some coaching from him, that would be a good way to get a hold of him for sure. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode, man. I hope you had fun. Is this okay?
It was fun. I'm out of gin as well. It was a perfect. Thank
It's
you for this. I really enjoyed
perfect
this.
timing. All
Thank
right,
you
well,
for
we'll
having
close
me.
it on this one, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out, everybody.